Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Madmen with the Box Live. I am your host, Pixel. I'm joined by Joe of the Corallos.
It's true. Hello.
And Gevain of Animated Concepts.
Hey, good evening.
And we're back. We're back again. No new Doctor Who to talk about, so we've taken our step back. Our topic today is Thin Ice, a Big Finish lost story. But before that, we actually do have only one piece of news to talk about. Doctor Who magazine came out this past week, I suppose. Saw a post about it yesterday. And it was so bad that Gevain had to hop off. He's gone now. We're not going to go through the whole thing. Essentially, because he's been doing the showrunner letter each month, and this is pretty much. It looks like it's going to be the last one for a while. He says, "I'll be taking a pause on this page," because they basically don't know what's happening. Yeah, this isn't much news. He talks a little bit about how they were developing it. It looks like they had planned season 2 before season 1. He said in making it, it was a little weird how everything just got swapped. But from that, he goes to talk about the Legend of Ruby Sunday and how it was originally a heist kind of episode. But the rest of this is just a goodbye. How changes came along as we went. And it's not the end. No, don't be mad. Doctor Who will never end. But this is the bleakest it's been in a long time. There's nothing healing here.
How long did they do the reshoots for the ending of season 2 after it was filmed?
I don't know. He did. This letter was written, I believe, a few. Like what? Like it has to be like a month, 2 months ago, something like that. I can't remember if he gives a date at the beginning. But faithful readers, the complete list. Yeah, no, there's no date here. It's just a sad state of affairs. Yeah.
It feels very necessary.
That's pretty much all we got. Thankfully, because I really don't want to talk about any news. We have the war between the land and the sea to go ahead. Yeah. As Sean is saying, the main show feels like it's going to be on hiatus. It might be a short hiatus, but still a hiatus. Yeah, there's nothing confirmed, so kind of just here shrugging. But let's go ahead. Let's not dwell. Let's step into a story. Thin Ice. No, not that Thin Ice. The other Thin Ice.
Yes.
This is a Big Finish audio, a part of their Lost Stories range, written by Mark Platt from his original script. And yeah, we have the Seventh Doctor and Ace back for more adventures, and Time Lords lurking in the distance. But let's go ahead and Sean is right. Actually, did y'all hear the news? I think it came out. Yes. There is going to be an animated Doctor Who show on the CB.
Oh yes, Doctor Who Jr.
You know, the thing with that is, I don't know. This isn't a critique necessarily on Doctor Who, because this is something I think we've been seeing a lot of lately with very mixed responses. And I'm sure Gevain's going to have some thoughts on this too, because we see this a lot with, Marvel and DC lately of, we're going to put out, at the same time that we're putting out and stuff for kids and golden books for kids, we're putting out rated R Wolverine movies. And it's like, it's just a mess. And
the synergy.
and it's just not, it's kind of all over the place in a way that's like they're stretching it too far, I think. And because I mean, this goes back to Star Wars with sort of the Ewoks movies and the Ewoks show and the Droids cartoon in the 80s. And but at least then Star Wars didn't also have Andor, you know what I mean? So it was, even though it was like, this is for little kids, but Star Wars itself was still accessible.
I mean, they have that going right now. They have the Young Jedi Adventures going on.
Yeah, exactly. And with Doctor Who, I'll also say I almost was going to say it hasn't quite gotten, but I'm like, no, Torchwood was R. So that was
Torchwood.
Yep.
But that's not going on right now.
No. But it's interesting seeing how a lot of franchises, I think, are trying to become one-stop shops. You don't have to leave Star Wars. You can raise your kids and go into the nursing home on Star Wars, And this feels like it might be an effort to do that. So much of this is going to be dependent on how they do it. I'm not looking forward to middle-aged men yelling about it on YouTube.
We're going
to leave it alone.
We're going to be the middle-aged men complaining about it.
No. But what I do think would be, if they really wanted to do this and do it right, I think the way you do it would be to go back, do a recast the William Hartnell era, especially the Dr. Susan, Ian, and Barbara. So you have the teachers, the student, and the doctor, and you stick to historical kind of stories, and you're actually teaching little kids global history. You can go beyond even what they did. We know a lot more now about certain civilizations than we did 60 years ago, and you could really create an educational show for kids this way. I just don't think they're gonna do it.
No, it's Disney Junior. It's gonna be look, my teenage daughters love Spidey and his Amazing Friends, but that's just purely from a merch standpoint. But it's it's gonna be Disney Junior. I mean, to Joe's point, it would be kind of cool if they did something like what the show was intended to be, but just a much more updated version of it. And because there used to be an excellent show that used to come on PBS here in the States called Myth Quest. That's what I think of when what Joe was talking about, but just have Doctor Who on it. But this is clearly just going to be towards preschoolers, and it's and I don't know if they really need a Doctor Who show. If that, I mean, we had Sarah Jane Adventures. I mean, at that time, that's what I watched. I watched the adult show, the more adult show. My daughters love Sarah Jane Adventures. That was their way to do Doctor Who without all the really scary monsters. So, it's doable, but I take Joe's point. At least back in the day when they did Flintstone Kids, a pup named Scooby-Doo, that's what it was. It was that, and it wasn't like that and 5 other things going on at the same time. It's, if you're going to refresh the brand, then just refresh the brand. But yeah, RTD needs to take a break, and the show needs to take a break, and they need to take about 18 months and just regroup.
Yeah.
Just regroup. Yeah. And this ain't it.
I'm just wondering. Maybe that's what next week's episode should be. We should pitch our own how we would go ahead and run the animated Doctor Who preschool show.
Yeah, why not?
There
Sure.
we go. Our pitches. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean they did it with Star Trek. What was that one, Joe? Prodigy or something like that?
Yeah.
No one watched.
Yeah, no,
It's
that
like,
ended up wrapping early. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody's asking for that, and that's what it comes down to.
Because not only that, but it was, what was it? It was mostly like Voyager cast,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like it was Janeway, and it's like, if you're gonna do something like that, do it with bigger like if it was like Picard or something, like at least that's a way to trick the parents into being like, oh, I want my kids to see what I watched when I was, younger. But
well, which Doctor do we think it's going to be?
That's a great question, Pixel. It's probably going to be Tennant.
Nope.
No.
They have not said. They haven't said. I'm saying no, they haven't said. We don't know. All we know is that they are developing the show.
Is it going to be a brand new Doctor? Like
that, we don't know. Nobody knows.
I think I could see them doing a recast of someone, because I feel like none of the are any of the Doctors that keen on voicing a preschool cartoon, like,
hey, look, it's Colin
you might get Tennant. He did do DuckTales.
Yeah, like you could maybe get Tennant. Maybe Jodie would do it if she's that.
Jodie would be a good choice.
I think she would probably be one of the better choices they could get if they're getting a current Doctor or a Doctor who is around that they want to do the cast one for one.
I think there's a good chance that they'll be able to get Tennant.
Yeah,
he did DuckTales, so he's game. Does he have a kid yet? Because that's always a good hook to get him to do it.
He has some kids, yeah. So he might. I saw somebody suggesting Colin Baker, saying that he would be good for it. I could see that. I mean,
I could see that, but isn't his health kind of not great at the moment? Or
I mean, he was doing, so they canceled it now, but they had an a podcast going on, Tales from the TARDIS, which were basically the Big Finish audio adventures released, and they had an intro, and he did the intro every single week. So I mean, they already had him on. They had him on retainer. So
yeah.
I mean, he's still doing Big Finish from what I know, and it's not like he has to get dressed up in the suit and run around.
Sure, but like, his Doctor has definitely softened since he was on TV and like his Big Finish stories. But like, it would be funny going from the Doctor who strangled Perry to
there you go. You beat me to it, Joe.
Like out of all the classic Who Doctors who are still around, I think like Paul McGann, since he really got the short end of the stick for live action, would be nice.
McGann?
Actually, I did that. I rethink about the little comic strip that they did have of the 8th Doctor, where he was remembering his make-believe grandkid and whatever. You could do something like that where it's
Yeah.
because it would be two little kids and the doctor going on wacky space adventures. That could be something that would be a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think 6 will get past child services, but that's just me.
Don't put Perry on the kids show. No. Just a little bit for the dads. Anyway. No, we're just going to be left wondering. But maybe you'll hear a pitch that they'll steal next. Look out for that. Now circling back to Thin Ice. No, not that Thin Ice. Thin Ice, The Lost Story by Mark Platt. And Joe, why don't you go ahead and get us started with this story?
Sure. No, I did really enjoy this one. Sylvester McCoy and Ace are just really great. They're in a lot of like even their worst stories together are fine. Like
Rapture.
Like there's but this story I think is elevated a little extra by Mark Platt, adapting his own script. I'm a big fan of Ghostlight. I also love Spare Parts, which is one of the standout Big Finish stories that I believe we did on here, and I was on. So
yep.
I'm a big Mark Platt fan, and it felt like the writing and all that really felt like maybe a few differences from what would have happened in a story that would have at this point been filmed for a 1990 release, but I felt kind of immersed in that. I liked the sort of body horror elements of the helmet taking people over. That also felt very John Nathan Turner era Who. Like those sort of like, oh, something unfortunate happens and deforms and disrupt someone and they get taken over. That I feel like that happened a lot under John Nathan Turner. But yeah, you have that. You have all of the Cartmel master plan stuff in here, and yes, it's different from what was originally planned, but not by a ton. Some big plot point differences. Like originally, this was going to be like Ace's departure story, but they changed the ending, so she's not going to the Time Lord Academy and sticks with the Doctor. And obviously, a lot of stuff in the story doesn't square with how the continuity ended up in the live action show from there. But that's not the point of this. The point was to put out these stories as if this was series 27 and not have all of the continuity that comes after it put upon it. I like a lot of the different character interactions, the Moscow setting, that all worked. The story felt like it's different from Curse of Fenric, but there are elements of it that I really like that paralleled. Whereas you're sort of dealing with the Germans in Curse of Fenric, you're dealing with the Russians in Thin Ice. The Ice Warriors I think work really well here. I'm a big Ice Warriors fan. Their first, I love their first appearance. Seeds of Death is good enough. I enjoyed enough. The Transmat announcer is iconic from that one. But and Curse of Peladon is one of Pertwee's best stories. So it's always great with the Ice Warriors. I love their stupid long voice. I'm pretty sure their how long it takes them to talk is why this is 2.5 hours. You know, it's a little under 2.5 hours. My biggest, when you're not counting the trailers and stuff at the end of it for other things, but my biggest gripe with Big Finish in general and a story like this is sometimes having to cut things for time to fit it on TV is a good thing. And while there is a lot going on and there isn't a lot of like downtime, like everything does fit and feel like it needs to happen. I would have loved a version of this that was like closer to under 2 hours, but it's fine.
Okay. Gevain.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a love fest for Thin Ice tonight. I really enjoyed it as well. I agree with Joe. Seven is one of my favorite doctors, if not my favorite doctor. As I've said before in other shows, it's like what I like about Seven is it's the fact of when you have somebody, sometimes you wonder if they've lived too long. And that's a lot of the way that Seven operates. And what I've always liked about Ace is that she kind of calls him out on that. And that's what I like about this particular story, that it's a lot of like the professor part of it. It becomes something a little bit more derogatory in terms of how he deals with her. And it kind of reminds me of a dynamic with a comic book character. I don't like it because I feel like it makes the people who he took in come off as very ungrateful, but it's kind of like this thing of like when the Robins start butting heads with Batman, like once they start to have like basically outgrown him. And that's what I've always liked about Ace, is that Ace is the companion who really, she outgrows the Doctor. Like he starts off as a very fatherly figure with her, but over time, it's like he doesn't know how to respect the fact that she's a teenager now or becoming a young adult, and he doesn't know quite how to deal with it. So he spends way too much time sort of pushing her away, as opposed to kind of embracing who she is. And that's what I get from this story here, that dynamic, that she's kind of tired of being treated like a kid with him. I agree with Joe. What I did like is I did like the callbacks and the echoes of like episodes like Curse of Fenric. And if I had one thing I would like to have seen different, I actually would have liked if maybe this was written as her exit out. It could have been something that I forget whichever the anniversary was, but the one where she interacts with the hologram of Seven, and she basically alludes to the fact that things did not end well with them ultimately. Did not win well ultimately. It'd have been nice if this could have served in a sense as that story of explaining exactly what that falling out was about, because it just seems to be rife with it. It's like, even though they make up at the end, you clearly could tell from the story that in some senses they're growing apart. And I'm looking forward to future stories to see if they'll explore how he just really kind of in a way isn't really ready to let her go. But she is basically, in a sense, getting too big for her britches. The one other thing I like to comment on, what I really like about this and why I like Seven, and have liked this story, is that McCoy has a very lyrical voice. I mean, it is a delight to actually listen to him talk. It's just very, very like sing-song, but not in a bad way. And just the interplay between the interactions between him and Ace. I mean, I know Sophie Allett is quite on in years, but it was really hard for me to kind of hear that like I have with other Big Finish productions. It really kind of like is a time capsule in a way and goes back. I enjoy all the Big Finishes. Again, I think this is with Seven, it just makes you realize how good of a doctor he was. Like in the same way that with Six, with Big Finish, it's like a lot of, you can see what the potential is. Like Pixel said earlier, it kind of softened him, but it basically deepened his character. But I think with this one here, it just reminds you of why McCoy was as good in the role as he was. And maybe if times had been different, you know, he would have had we would have gotten a few more series out of him. But I really enjoyed this one. Thought it was well done all around. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I like this story a lot too.
Yeah.
It was fun listening to the extras for this one because it's still so different from how they are now, where you have that same sound lead you in. This time they're all sounding robotic to introduce themselves. But it was interesting hearing how Nick Briggs in this story he didn't really have any time to actually record in the episode, so they had to go ahead. They found this sliver that he was able to record everything, and they were able to patch it together in post. I think he only did some acting with the adjudicator, but the rest they just shuffled him in. And he really is a talent, because the fact that he can do this, and then he also does the Daleks, and then he's able to do the Cybermen. He really gets some good use. Of course, if I started an audio adventure company, I would also put myself as the bad guy. Who wouldn't want to be the Daleks? Right. Rational people. But this story is fine. I see what you mean, Gevain, because it was set up to be a departure for Ace.
Yeah.
But I like that they shifted that here in this adaptation of the Lost story. I think keeping Ace around to go ahead and forgive him after that, because their relationship really is a highlight.
Yes.
What else?
What'd you think of the supporting cast?
They're okay. They were okay. Most of this story was going ahead and just fall. I like sticking with the Seventh Doctor, but when he had to go ahead and basically cut out halfway through to say, "All right, you're on your own, goodbye," and he doesn't give any words. It reminded me a little bit of Kill the Moon, where he's saying, "I'm done here. I'm not going to help you again. Goodbye." The only difference being that the Doctor didn't really choose that here. He chose that in Kill the Moon, but in Thin Ice, he was basically told, "Stay out of it." And the bit with the helmet going ahead and taking over the Russian lady was that was something that was like odd to me a little bit, because that's not an ice warrior. They're transforming her into an ice warrior. That was a little much, because that's not what I think about when I think of them.
No, but it felt very John Nathan Turner-y, I thought, even if it did.
It did do that. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't been around for this chapter that they've done in Big Finish to go ahead and adapt Rain following this, because that's what this sets up. The fact that she was pregnant at that time, to the point where, okay, well, you can't really tell, she's far too early, and then it's rushed, and the Doctor doesn't even think to be like, well, sure, the baby's delivery was rushed, but surely you should check on something like that, right? Like, that wasn't natural. It's a little much, but they just passed it off. I guess.
Do you think? I got the sense that was like, and I don't think it got hammered home. Like, since there was the Time Lord Academy bit, was this sort of like him auditioning Ace so they would see how well suited she would be for the Academy?
Oh, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it is.
That's what it was.
All right.
They're observing how she's handling this. But that also feels a little odd when you consider the Time Lords. Sure, the Time Lords were giving the Doctor missions, but for a large part, their whole thing is we don't interfere, and then to say starkly the opposite for going ahead for a new candidate.
Sure.
What makes a Time Lord? What is a Time Lord? What are the rules here? I was going to say, going back to the baby being born, one more thing was that they could have implied, like, if the mother hadn't lived at the end of this, I thought they were going to imply that basically her humanity went into the baby to go ahead and speed up the growth, and it transformed the rest of her into an ice work, but she comes back and she's fine. So it's an odd thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, those are my only gripes. This is a fun story. Yeah. I like the Ice Warriors. But yeah, that's pretty much all I feel about it. I don't know what number I would give. Do you have a number for it, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I like this a lot. It felt like it fit where it needed to fit in the continuity of the show. Like I was saying, like some of the Stranger Things with it, it still feels appropriate. Like it still feels like, oh well, yeah, that's what you'd get under John Nathan Turner, Andrew Cartmel would be, you know, some of this stuff. The banter and was great. Just the dialogue between you know, the Doctor and Ace. Ace was, you know, Sophie Aldred was like on her A game.
Yeah.
It was it was an interesting setting. You know, it all really worked for me. I think I give this like an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gevain.
Yeah, for me, 8 would probably maybe a little bit high.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A little bit high, given I thought at least the supporting cast was kind of in some ways superfluous to the story. But I would give it a 7.5 just because it's 7 because I think it's a great story. Really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the Big Finish stuff, but definitely close to the 8 because I really enjoyed the like Joe said, the banter, the relationship, the dynamics, just the vocal performances of McCoy and Allard in this. I think they did a great job of it. It's like I said, it's like they didn't miss a beat, and it's something where I think of probably my other favorite Doctor is the second Doctor, and I love the relationship between him and Jamie. And that's a lot of times that's kind of what Seven and Ace remind me of, is that kind of like just a really good solid friendship, you know, a solid friendship. Probably the best epitomes of what the Doctor companion relationship was before. In the modern era, it became more like the companion is pretty much a love interest for the most part. I mean, the only equivalent that you would have in the modern era to like what these two would be of course 10 and Donna. But yeah, definitely a solid 7.5 for me.
I'm going to go with flat 7. I think it's a really good story, but a lot of it is just that, well, I enjoy the performances. The story is fine. It's nothing too special for me, but it's nothing bad. I'm so glad to be able to rank something that's not a 1.
No, for sure. I mean, part of it is also just, oh my God, like revealing something really good on here.
It's nice to reveal a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much a flat 7, and Sean agrees a 7 as well. That's pretty much our show. We hope you've enjoyed, and join us next week as we're going to be pitching our animated Doctor Who series for the CBs. They're totally going to be the CBs, guys. Be ready. It's going to be fun. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time. And Alonzi.
Take care.
So long.